Today I am changing my dead stock original Toyota Chaser for the first time by installing this Sony CarPlay head unit. My name's Pat, this is 2PJZ, let's get stuck in. So I know you're really keen to see this installed in my JZX100, but before we do that, let's take a very quick look at what actually comes in the kit of this Sony XAV-AX6000. We've got a remote that we'll probably never use. We've got the instruction manual that we'll probably never read. We've got this really handy USB-C cord that goes in the back of the head unit, and we can either route this through the glove box or through the driver's side. So it actually comes up to me, maybe between my seat. We'll have a look at where we route that when we put it into the car. We've got the microphone, which has this really handy little flat plate, so you can stick it on the steering column, which is probably what we'll end up doing. I don't think I'm going to route this up through the car into the A-pillar. You've got head unit wiring harnesses, which we don't need because I've got a couple of AeroPro harnesses. And then you've got this GPS, which is a bit of an ugly thing with this big plate to increase the GPS antenna strength. I don't want to have to put this on the dash. I'm hoping I can hide this in the glove box, but I'll have to see once I actually install it about where this will best fit, because obviously I want my maps to work. That's the whole point of having wireless CarPlay. I'll show you the head unit quickly. How nice is that? It's not filling up the double DIN slot. There's room for cables and other things behind the head unit here, which is really great. So Sony have done a really good job with this, and really nice buttons as well. Oh, so nice. So good. So now it's time to go and chuck it in the car. So what we're going to do first is take off this trim piece. You'll need a trim removal tool for this, and just be really gentle, because every single time you take off this trim piece, you run the risk of snapping the clips, which is something that I'm terrified of doing. Taking the trim pieces off requires a lot of attention to detail, because you want to make sure that you don't snap any of the clips. Make sure you carefully unplug everything that's sitting behind the trim piece and then carefully remove it. You've got this black plug here, which you have to push out, that goes in there, and then you've got your two cigarette lighter plugs as well. You can see, or maybe not see, but there's 4 bolts. I believe these are 10 mils. So you've got 4 bolts, one here, got one down there, one here, and then one there. So we'll pop those out, and then the head unit itself will come out, and we'll be able to take this out of the cage and put the new unit in and connect it all up, and then it should be good to go. The next thing to do is to grab your 10 mil socket and unbolt the 4 small bolts that hold the radio and air conditioning controls in. This is pretty straightforward and doesn't require much explanation, but you just, again, want to make sure you're being careful, and then the head unit itself will very satisfyingly come out. Then there's 3, I think, white pins at the back, so that's 1. And then you've got the aircon controls as well down the bottom, and then you've got 2 plugs for the antenna, I believe. So I don't know why there's 2 plugs. Someone will have to tell me why in the comments, but there's 2 plugs for the antenna. This is a head unit and aircon control as a complete package. So basically, we just need to take these 4 bolts out on either side, and then we should be able to put the new unit on, but we'll put the harnesses on first, just so I can show you how those work if you're new to doing this. So we'll very carefully put that down there for a sec. So with head unit harnesses, these cost about $16 or $17 each, and essentially they're things that you buy that mean you don't have to do any custom wiring when you're doing a job like this. And because the car is completely original and factory, everything I do to the car, I want to be able to reverse it. So I didn't want to cut into the factory wiring any more than I had to for the ETC card reader. So we've got a AeroPro, part number is APP0141 to suit Toyota. So that this part goes into these 2 leads for the car, and then it will connect into this, which is a Sony APP8 SP5, and that connects into the back of the new head unit. And then that's literally all you should have to do, and then it should be able to turn it on and the car should work. So we'll chuck these on. So you can see the 2 white plugs correspond to down here. This one goes in. So those 2 are now locked in. And then once you have these, you open your Sony head unit harness box, and then these 2 parts, the black and the red, obviously correspond with the black and the red. So you put black one in like that, and red one in like that. And apologies if you have put hundreds of head units in before. This video is supposed to cater to everyone, so if you have done this millions of times, hopefully you just enjoy me doing this. But if you are brand new to doing this, hopefully you're learning something along the way. But please be patient with me if you are experienced in this. I am trying to help out the newbies, because there isn't a massive lot for this particular head unit on the internet, because it is still really new. Get some harnesses, because this saved me a good couple hours worth of wiring, and it took 2 seconds to install. The next step is to get your Phillips head screw
screwdriver and unbolt the stock head unit. So basically, once you get the bracket loose, the factory head unit in all its glory will just slip out. I'm really sad to be taking this out in a way because it's the first step to making this car a bit unoriginal, and I was pretty on the fence about doing it, but at the end of the day, I daily drive this car and I need it to be functional and as modernized as possible while still keeping the essence of what this car is. So I am keeping this. I'm not selling this, so don't hit my comments asking for this. I'm just going to put it on the shelf and keep it. Potentially might put it all back to completely stock one day and use this head unit in another car. Moving on, because that is now done. We will not be seeing that again for a long time. It is time to put the new head unit in. Be very careful. Ooh. Not very careful at all. You can see, I don't know, you might not be able to see that, but on the side, what I really like is there's a T for Toyota, an N for Nissan, and then a TN for Toyota and Nissan, which is really cool because it means that you can like fit it up properly with the factory unit lined up here quite nicely, which is cool. Now that it's all bolted in, you can see that that's all sorted. I'm hoping there's not too much of a gap between the head unit and the center console. So ideally when it's all in, it should sit really flush. So if it fits back in like that, I'm going to be very happy because that looks awesome. Like really modern, but also sort of understated as well. So I'm pulling the USB-C cord through the dash using the same area that I put my ETC cord. And the whole idea is that this will fit under the ETC cord so it doesn't get in the way and pull any of the wires out like that. And then basically this I'll feed and tuck under here. So as we sort of come down the car a bit, but down here, tuck this cord just under all this paneling, which leaves me at about here. So right where my gear stick is and parking brake. And then with that, I can essentially just leave this little part here and plug a cord in so I can charge my phone. And then when I'm not using this, or not using the cord to charge my phone, I can just shove it down here next to my seat so it's out of sight, which was the whole idea of this. I wanted it to be as discreet as possible.
You couldn't really see before where I routed the USB-C cable to charge my phone. So here I'm showing you it came up the side of where the center console is next to the driver's seat.
So now with the USB-C cord sorted, it's time to sort out this. So this essentially is a GPS module for when you're using Apple CarPlay with a wireless function like we are on this new head unit. You need to have this connected and in a clear view of satellites. So I don't want to have to put it on the dash, so we're going to try it in the glove box first, but we're going to run into the same issues that we had running the other cord through the glove box, and I might just have to suck it up because the glove box does still close. You just have to push it a little bit more, and realistically I don't really use the glove box that much.
My girlfriend Erin really neatly routed the GPS antenna cable right behind the dash here, and you can barely see it when it's installed in the car, which is awesome.
So we're just at the stage now of zip tying up a bit of the slack just to tidy up the cables a little bit back here. So we've already done the mic one. We're now doing the GPS cable. Erin's routed the GPS cable up there, which looks really nice. And then we've got the mic just sitting here, sort of hidden discreetly next to my windscreen wipers, so that will never get in the way. And then when I'm driving the car, I can't actually see the microphone, which is really handy too. So I'm gonna have to do a little test of that. We're putting the cords in with just enough slack that they can still connect into everything all nicely, because we've got heaps of room behind the head unit to actually stow all these cords. I just don't want anything to start like getting in the way and getting all messy. And now it's a really exciting part of test fitting everything in to make sure it works, and then powering the car on for the first time. First thing to plug in is the GPS cord. Then we've got the USB-C cord, awesome. Then we've got our microphone. So the mic goes here into that red one, nice. So this new harness now plugs in this way. Oh, that wasn't very satisfying. Anyway, that's in though. Then we've got our antenna cables. So we have two, and frankly, I don't know which one I plug in. I imagine it's the bigger one. So we're just gonna plug that in and leave the other one out. Now we can sort of sit that here. Oh, yeah, we've got power. And the little JDM girl isn't interrupted now by the shitty old Bluetooth transmitter. So thank God that is out. Right, so now put the aircon controls back in. So there's just the two back here. And then it's just a matter of trying to get everything as neat as I can, but it's quite difficult because there's a bit happening back there now. And just get all this stuff down here out of the way, because you want it to be able to go back in nice and flush. You don't want anything creating an obstacle for you to get the other cords back in.
Now that's done, it's time to bolt everything back up and chuck the trim pieces back on.
Nice. And this one, same sort of thing. Oh yeah, that looks incredible. incredible. Nice. Oh, that's so good. Alrighty, so with the trim back on, the head unit is sitting in here really nice and flush. I'm really happy with it. It fits the space perfectly. I've spent a lot of time researching what head units would fill out this space without any need to fill in the gaps on the side or on the top or on the bottom, and this fit up perfectly with the factory air conditioning controls. There's been no form of modifications needed to the trim piece, which is something that I wanted. So if you are looking for a head unit for your Chaser, I highly recommend this particular unit. I've got to go and do a couple of wireless CarPlay tests on the street. How it works, the sound works. It sounds infinitely better than the stock radio and the FM transmitter as expected. I thought I needed to do a speaker upgrade, but after having this, my back speakers still don't work. Front speakers are just so much more elevated than what they were before, which is fantastic. So really happy with it. Apologies for the low light that you're seeing in this shot. I had to take the car out onto the street to test it because in my apartment basement there is absolutely no phone reception to test Apple CarPlay, but it worked perfectly. I tested Google Maps, I tested Waze, I tested Spotify, and everything else that I'd use on a day-to-day basis, and it all works flawlessly. I'm pointing here to show you that there is absolutely no modifications needed to the trim piece for this head unit, which is the biggest thing that I wanted installing this in the car. I think it modernizes the car, but still looks really sleek and ergonomic, which I'm super happy with. So that is it. Pretty straightforward, easy install, and it's so nice when things actually work when you're installing parts on cars. That was easy. It took about 2 hours, and it only took that long because I was filming and Erin was helping me film all sorts of different parts with it. Again, if you have enjoyed today's video, there's plenty more coming every single week. I'm working really hard to get these videos up for you and try and make them better and more entertaining every single time that I post. So thank you for watching. Please share the love. Send this to a friend, send this to a family member who needs some more car content in their life. There is so much in store for this JZX100 Chaser. This head unit I feel like is going to snowball into a lot more mods over time, so make sure you like the video. Let me know what you want to see done to this car. I've got a bunch of things I could do to it next. Let me know what you want to see and we might make it happen. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much again for giving me your most precious resource. Thank you so much again for giving me your most precious resource, which is your time, and for following me and my journey with this Chaser, and for enjoying today's video. Please subscribe if you're new, and we will see you next week.